Hey guys. Okay, my name's Gary, grateful recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And today, come here, Bobo. Sorry, it's my puppy. That's Bo. You wanna see Bo? Come here, Bo. Come here. This is Bo. That's Bobo. That's Bobo Brown. Look at that boy. Okay, Dad's gonna make a video. All right, you guys, that's Bo. I call him Bobo. So, he threw up on my bed last night. That was nice. So what I want to talk about today is, I think I said I'm Gary. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic, and I am, and drug addict. What I want to talk about today, I made a video and just posted it right now, so you'll get this tomorrow. But step 2. Okay, so in the video, you're going to see, or you're seeing, today or yesterday, whatever the fuck, was step 1. And I talked about my personal powerlessness over drugs and alcohol. And, early in my life, I had that unmanageability, and, I knew I could be a better man and than I was being. And I was held down. I was shackled to drugs and alcohol. I couldn't be the man I wanted to be. So that was my step 1. That was my experience with step 1. I can only give you my experience. I can't, I'm not going to sit here and preach to you, some bullshit. I can only give you, me and what AA and Alcoholics Anonymous and my personal experience has done for me. What AA has done for me, not for other people, but my personal experience. And my personal experience was step 2. And step 2 is, in case you're wondering, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And this is where people that are new have a hard time, especially if you don't believe in God, or if you think maybe God forgot about you, or I'm limited to, I'm researching, I'm still developing my perception of God. And what's cool about AA is it allows you to have whatever God you want to have. And the main thing is that you use that God in the 12 steps, and we'll get to that. But today and I'm going to keep it on step 2. So how I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I grew up in Catholic school and had a pretty normal upbringing, I mean, whatever normal is, these days. My parents loved me, and they were together, and there was craziness and insanity and, and all that stuff. But, my parents are good people, and they raised me the best way they knew how to do. And they're still together to this day. My dad just turned 81, and my mom is 79 and a half. She doesn't like when I say she's 80, so she's 79 and a half. And they love each other today, but, they've been married, going on 58, 59 years, something like that. And, they've had their hard times, and and I was in the house when they were having them, type thing. So, there was craziness, but there was a lot of love, and I grew up in an upper middle class family in an upper middle class neighborhood. And I went to Catholic school and went to church on the weekends. I was an altar boy, and so I had that Catholic or Christian background. So I've always, me personally, I've just always believed that there is a God. Okay, and so it's been pretty easy for me but it's still developing, you know, because I want to know God better. And you don't need to have some, you don't need to read every religion or anything like that. You can do all that stuff when you're sober, but pick a God. And if you can't pick a God, if you're really having a hard time with that, um, here's a great thing to do, because I knew there was a God, but I didn't know how God worked. I didn't know that. I just figured I was a peon on this earth, and God made this huge earth that we live in, and He made us as, we're human beings, and we're complicated creatures. Like when you think about it, breathing and our heart beating and our blood's flowing, and we're not thinking about any of that shit. It's just going on and on and on. And I always knew that I came from God, and I will return to God. That's just my belief. It doesn't have to be yours. Okay? You can believe whatever you want. So I had this belief, this somewhat, small kind of belief system that there was a God, but He sure wasn't working in my life, right? And when I got to AA, I could, when I really came to believe was like 20 years ago, when I got into Alcoholics Anonymous in 2002. I got a sponsor, and I worked the steps with him, and going to a lot of meetings, I went to a lot of AA meetings, and I still do. I went to a lot of AA meetings, and I had a sponsor that was just a big book kind of guy, and a real spiritual kind of guy. I mean, he wasn't like a pastor or anything like that. He's still around, and I still talk to him frequently. He's still my sponsor. And I watched, he had this huge life. And I knew, by the way, when talking to him, I knew he was a fuck up like me. But he had some time under his belt. I think he probably had, at that time, maybe 15 years or something, right? Maybe 10 or 15 years. But I knew just in talking with him that he was a real, he was a real fucking alcoholic, and he was a real drug addict. I mean, this guy, he snorted cocaine and out of urinals, and sucked bourbon out of carpets, and, spilt bourbon on carpet and sucked it right out of the fucking carpet. And he'll tell you that, and he doesn't mind me sharing that because it's helping people, and I know him very well. He was my step 2 into this thing. And what I mean by that is I watched him, and I wanted what he had, not in a materialistic kind of way, but I wanted what he had he had a big life. He was surrounded by love. He was surrounded by friendships. And I watched how crazy, he was just as crazy as I am, He would, have the road rage that I talked about in the last video or two. He was just like me, and he thought like me, and he behaved like me. And he wasn't behaving that way. And he would have, little moments of humanness, but all in all, he was a high-functioning member of society, and he had a following of young men that wanted to have a life like he had, and he sponsored a lot of fucking guys, man. I don't know how many he sponsors now. I know he sponsors this one right here. So, and he lived and breathed the book. And I would watch him go through something, like maybe at work. I'm not going to get into details or anything, but I would watch him, just suffer, with something, and work the steps around it, find out his part in it, which was usually fear, right? And come out of the other side. And I was like, wow, then maybe there. So he would do steps 1, 2, and 3, and then he would do a short inventory on whatever was bothering him, and then he would go to God in step 6 and 7, and I'd watch him come through the other side of that and let it go. And sometimes he took a few times, because when an alcoholic lets something go, it's got fucking claw marks on it, right? So maybe he'd have to do it 2 or 3 times. Maybe he's, if we're lucky, we could keep doing it our whole life. Some things we just are hard to let go of, And so I came to believe through watching him and through watching other people in the rooms. There's people right now saying, I'm watching you go through the death of your son, and wow, maybe I'm their step 2, coming to believe that there's a power greater than themselves that can restore them to sanity. Because I just lost my middle son, Brandon, to an accidental fentanyl overdose, and it rocked my fucking world. My life will never be the same. And it'll be better because I've thrown myself into this thing, and I've started helping people 10 times harder than I would ever help anybody. It just made me realize this whole thing about losing my son. He lost his life to fentanyl, and this whole fentanyl pandemic we're having, and I put out some videos and stuff, but they don't circulate really. But if there was something more I could do, they circulate better on Instagram, but maybe 1,000 people will see them on Instagram. But I wish they would circulate more. But I'm in the trenches as far as I talk to young men and women every day. I'm on the phone with an alcoholic, newer than me, trying to help show them, what I'm doing to stay sober, and maybe they've got a problem to go through, and I'm going through problems with them, maybe their personal issues or something like that they're having, and I get to show them the steps, and maybe I'm someone else's step 2, maybe they get to come to believe by watching me walk my walk. So that gives me even more responsibility that I love and enjoy. That's what gives me my joy in my life right now, is that I get the most joy from my kids and my grandson, okay, by just watching them live their life, and watching my grandson, and I'd like to see him more, but it's hard, but what I do on a daily basis, I interact with a lot of alcoholics, and I've a lot on this channel too. A lot of people on this channel, that some are getting sober, some aren't sober, but just the honesty is just unbelievable. But so I realize that I may be somebody's step 2, so I don't want to act like a fucking asshole, but I want to be honest. And some days I am an asshole, so I tell on myself, because I want to let you guys know. I want to be as real as I could be, and let you guys know, hey, I'm fucking normal just like you guys, and we can do this thing together. So if that makes any sense to you guys, my sponsor and a lot of different people going to meetings, I watched a power greater than themselves work in their life. I watched people believe in that power, and I watched that power change their whole fucking life. And I watched relationships be rekindled, marriages, people that weren't paying child support started paying child support and got their family back. I mean, so many miracles happen in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Way too many to speak of on a video like this. I mean, relationships, jobs, lives are put back together, and it's just an amazing thing. So, and we do it by the steps, and this step 2 is critical. It's getting to step 3, which is you're going to use that step 3 the whole rest of your sobriety, the rest of your life, a day at a time. So step 2 is real important. It sets the foundation for the rest of your program. And it doesn't say you have to believe in a certain God, but you could believe in a certain God right now, and then that can evolve, as you grow, and it probably will. Mine is. So, I'm pondering between Christianity and, I'm doing a lot of reading on, well, I haven't read shit this week, but, I started getting into reading more about Christianity. Maybe I'll do that tonight because I'm making myself accountable. But, yeah, step 2, you got to come to believe, and the best place to come to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity is in the rooms of AA. So I'm not telling anybody what to do, and it works for a lot of people. It works for a lot of people. Somewhere in this, I think it's the second edition, it gives percentages. I don't want to botch the percentages, but I'll give it a shot. It says for people who try, 50% get sober right off the bat. So, 50% of the people who try get sober right off the bat. Then out of that 50% that didn't make it, 25% that really try sober up after a few relapses, after some time. And then the other 25% that try, their life gets better. So, they go in and out, and there's a lot of people that do that. They go in and out, in and out. Me, I got lucky. I can't afford to, you never know. I thought I'd die last time I was out. I was fucking slamming needles into my arms and shit like that. So, doesn't get much worse. Your bottoms go lower, So, I want to keep it right where it was, and I don't ever want to see that bottom. And something was said, I heard something said today, or I read something, I don't know, my head's I'm into so much AA shit and everything like that, but it's a common saying in AA, especially when you're getting sober, in those first 6 months to first year, like I am now, and you're just in fucking turmoil, and life's fucking upside down, and like me, my finances are fucked, and, I just lost my son, and, I create shit, I got a lot of shit going on, and you think your life is falling apart, but it's really coming together. It's really falling together. So as long as you don't drink, you got a shot at tomorrow, and everything will be okay. I really believe that. I'm a man who just walked through the death of his middle son, and this kid and I were close. And I'm telling you, it gets better. Okay? It gets better. I know that I'm going to have good days and bad days, but as long as I stay sober, I'm going to have a good life. That I know. I'm not going to be unemployed. I'm not going to, if I ever do get unemployed, it's going to be for very short-lived. If, I can walk through deaths. I can walk through grief. I can walk through loss of relationship. I've done it all sober. So, and that God of my own understanding gets me through an awful lot, and so did the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. So you guys, subscribe, okay? Remember the 5-day God challenge, okay? If you're having trouble believing in God, or if you think God might have forgot about you and you're having trouble with alcohol and drugs, believe that I believe. I did this, try this. Get on your knees for 5 days and 5 nights, once in the morning, once at night. In the morning, ask Him for help to stay clean and sober and to be useful to others around you. And at night, if you go to bed clean and sober, say, thank you, God. Do it again the next day. If you don't stay sober through that, keep praying, guys. Keep praying. It'll stick. It'll stick. I promise you. Pray for the willingness to be willing. Just say, God, please help make me willing to be sober. And then just go about your day. Just forget about it. But try to do that every day, okay? That's what I did. And it took about a year and a half. But it happened one day. And it's kind of a neat story. And I've told it many times. You guys can create your own neat story on how He did it for you. He'll give you the willingness. So, the other thing I want to mention is the ImpactFoundationLA.org. There's an Energizer bunny named Vicky who never stops, never sleeps. She just keeps going 24/7, boom, 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 boom. She's always going. And she's a woman who lost her son, Chase Malone, who did not know he was taking the drug fentanyl. He thought he was taking another drug, and he was poisoned by the cartel. So Vicky lost him a year and a half ago, I think, or something like a year and a half ago. And she has dedicated her life to building this foundation from the ground up. And she needs your help. Anybody who can help, anybody who's got a little bit of extra money, remember, guys, if you're living in a spiritual life, if you are living a spiritual life, you have to give in order to receive, okay? This is a great foundation. It's not a bullshit foundation that somebody started to just line their own pockets. This is a foundation that she doesn't take a fucking dime from this thing. She's trying to build a bank account so it could go into action and start being of service to people. And she's getting professionals on board, and we need the funds in order to do that. So if you've got $1, $5, $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever, I don't know, what you guys are able to give, but you can go on the ImpactFoundationLA.org and hit the donate button and donate to that wonderful cause. It's designed to help people in need, and people that can't afford it. So, that being said, thank you for tuning into my channel, and share and subscribe, guys. Subscribe.